may.
On June 18th of 2013, the Midland State Police Department got a new chief of police, didn't they?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Peterson.
That was Officer Francis Kimball, wasn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
And on that day, he sent an email with instructions for everyone in the department, correct?
Yes.
And you received these instructions, correct?
Yes, I did.
And one of these instructions, Chief Kimball told you to be newsworthy, isn't that true?
Objection to hearsay to the statements of Chief Kimball. That's an out-of-court statement being used for the truth of the matter asserted. The truth value in that statement is that Police Chief Francis Kimball is telling Officer Keenan to be newsworthy.
Your Honor, I'm not trying to use this for the truth of the matter asserted that Chief Kimball was trying to, prove that there needed to be newsworthy. I wanted just for the effect on the listener and how it affected Officer Keenan and his investigation and who he specifically went after and how he proceeded further on.
Okay, your response, Counselor?
Your Honor, I would argue that the defense is using this statement for its truth value. The truth value in that statement is to be newsworthy. And the defense is coming here arguing that Officer Keenan was personally invested in this case and that Officer Keenan wanted to be newsworthy. Now, those statements are going directly to the truth of the matter asserted.
Response?
That means that they are not statements by Officer Keenan. That means there's still statements of Francis Kimball. We're not trying to prove that Francis Kimball wanted to, be newsworthy. It's how it affected Officer Keenan.
Okay. Final response, Counselor?
My final response is that these statements are being used for the truth value. As I've said, the statement is that to be newsworthy, and the defense is coming in here arguing that Officer Keenan wanted to be newsworthy. These statements are going directly to what the defense is arguing. Therefore, these statements are being used for their truth value.
I don't know if we have heard yet that Mr. Keenan wants to be newsworthy. We have heard that they believe that Mr. Keenan has entrapped the defendant Avery Bancroft, but I don't know if we have heard that he wanted to be newsworthy about it. So I think that the exception that Mr. Peterson gave for the effect on the listener is a good enough exception for what he is specifically trying to gain out of these comments. If you feel that it goes beyond that, you may re-raise your objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So, one of the things that your chief of police told you was to be newsworthy, isn't that true?
Yes, that's correct.
And along with this, he told you to go after powerful citizens in the state, isn't that true?
He told us to look out for possible corruption.
So, you then went undercover in the Midlands Gambling Commission, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And your investigation began in 2013?
Yes, July.
And you said that on direct that you are very knowledgeable about all the authorizations and proper certifications for undercover work, isn't that true?
Yes, as part of our training we are.
But that no one can access your certification of your undercover training, isn't that true?
That is true, yes.
So no one can look at that.
Not without proper clearance, no.
And another thing that goes along with undercover work is proper authorization from the district attorney's office. Did you receive that before you started your undercover work?
Yes, I did.
So, after around February 13th, you overheard a conversation between Avery Bancroft and Chase Covington. Isn't that true?
Yes, that is when I began investigating Avery.
Yes, you began investigating Avery just because you heard him call Chase Covington.
After he told Miss Covington that he wanted to get together and grease the wheels, that's one of the signs that we're trained to look for as undercover investigators. So I was perfectly okay in beginning my investigation at that point.
So it just took one conversation for you to go after Avery Bancroft?
Yes, that is correct.
And so you enlisted Corey Hyde as your informant, right?
Yes.
And you got the proper authorization for use of an informant as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And the first meeting you had with Hyde, you told him what you wanted him to do, right?
Yes, I outlined a couple instructions for him.
And you had him set up a meeting for March 31st with Mr. Bancroft?
Yes, that is true.
And the day before that meeting, you sent him an email, correct?
Yes.
You would recognize that if I were to show it to you?
Yes, I would.
Person approach opposing counsel in the witness in turn with defensive exhibit A.
Okay, you may.
Approaching the witness with
You may.
proposed exhibit.
Thank you.
I just handed you that email I was talking about, correct?
Yes, this does appear to be the email.
And this is an email from your email to Corey Hyde, correct?
Yes. Yep.
And this is a fair and accurate copy of that email, isn't it?
Yes, it appears to be unaltered.
Your Honor, at this point, I move to admit defense of Exhibit A to evidence.
Any objections?
No objections, Your Honor.
So moved.
So in this email, you tell Corey Hyde what you specifically want him to do at that meeting, correct?
I mentioned a couple topics that he might want to bring up at the conversation, yes.
Yes, you told him that specifically as Avery Bancroft's personal assistant, that he should bring something up about sweetening the pot, correct?
Yes, that would be an example of part of the training that we undergo as officers. See, we're taught to drop
I'm sorry,
subtle hints.
Officer Keenan, I wasn't asking about your training. I'm just asking, did you or did you not tell Avery Bancroft's personal assistant to say something about sweetening the pot to him?
Yes, I did.
And then you also told him that Avery needed to know that someone needed to be happy, and that person was Chase Covington. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, that is true.
Person to approach and tender evidence to the bench.
You may.
So when this March 31st meeting came around, Corey Hyde ended up doing what you told him, didn't he?
He did bring up sweetening the pot, yes.
And before that, Avery Bancroft never said anything about a bribe, did he?
During that conversation, no. But there was the phone call between Avery Bancroft and Chase
I'm
Covington.
sorry, I didn't ask about that phone call, Officer Keenan. I just asked about this March 31st meeting.
I believe you just said before that, but all right. In that March 31st conversation, no.
And all he talked about at that meeting was the merits of his proposal, correct?
Before that, yes, that is correct.
And then you also told Avery Bancroft he needed to pitch more than ideas. Isn't that true?
Yes, and once I said that, Avery Bancroft's responses were affirmative to that. Some of his responses in the conversation were, okay, I can do that. I want to pitch more, I want to pitch my ideas.
Nothing specifically about a bribe, was there?
It wasn't specifically mentioned, no.
So I want to talk about the next meeting you had, Corey had scheduled for April 13th. You brought up a napkin on direct. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Permission to approach and retrieve evidence?
Yep.
Permission to approach witness?
You may.
Thank you.
So I want to talk about this napkin. You initially handed Avery Bancroft a napkin before this one, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You handed him a napkin and a pen, didn't you?
Yes.
But then he just wiped his head off with it.
Initially, yes.
It wasn't until the second napkin you handed him, you told him it's always about the money, that he wrote anything down.
Yes, which was exactly what he had said to Miss Covington earlier. It was the suspect's own words.
You don't know what any of that means, do you?
I mean, it seems pretty obvious that yes equals $250,000.
So you don't know what those figures represent, though, just that the yes equals 250,000.
Well, I mean, the figures represent an amount of money, and yes represents a vote.
You know that represents a vote?
That, it would appear to be the case, yes.
Permission to approach and retrieve.
Yeah.
Tender evidence.
Thank you.
Where do I get down here? So at that point, you just assumed that there was a vote that was being had, and that yes was 250,000 for that vote, correct?
Well, the commission had already announced that they would be accepting new proposals for a casino and that they would be voting on those. And the purpose of the meeting between Ms. Covington and Mr. Bancroft was to discuss that proposal. So yes.
But once again, to my question, you just assumed that that was about that vote.
Objection to asked and answered.
Yeah, I think we've hit the point a couple times. Thank you.
And then on April 16th, there was supposed to be one final meeting with Chase Covington and Avery Bancroft, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
But the problem was Chase Covington never showed up, did she?
That is correct.
And this frustrated you, didn't it?
It was a little concerning. I was a little flustered, yes.
And then after Avery Bancroft, you got even more upset, didn't you?
I was, again, a little flustered, yes.
To the point that you threatened your own informant, Corey Hyde, right?
Yes, pressuring informants is all right to do, so long as they're not the chief suspect in an investigation. Now, Corey Hyde was not who I was investigating, so it is all right for me to pressure him, while not exactly pleasant.
You told him that you'd make sure he spent time in a little metal cell, didn't you?
Yes, I did apply pressure to to Corey Hyde.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.